Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Traveling Shaver. This week I am in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But before we get started on the facts of this wonderfully historic town, the gear that I'll be using in this episode shave is, of course, since I'm in a hotel, the Starling. This is a first use gem blade, and you may or may not be able to see, but there's a little bit of irritation that I'm still trying to get over, so fair warning, there might be some weepers. The brush that I'll be using for this week is the RazoRock Monster. So I can get this right set up here. RazoRock Monster with the Plissoft style knot. And somebody asked for this, I can't remember if it was for a live shave or a video. I posted this in a shave of the day in one of the groups, and that would be LEA shave stick, product of Spain. Now, this is kind of interesting timing with the shave stick, in that Michael Freeberg, if you follow his channel, just posted a video, I believe this weekend, or just this past week, using LEA shave stick. And to be honest, I haven't seen a whole lot of people using LEA. And it is a great soap. Now they also do offer the soap in a puck and in a cream. So they offer a cream, a puck, and the shave stick. I have not used the cream or the puck, so don't know how those perform, but this is tallow and lanolin, and it just comes with a little white holding spot there, and I have used this quite a bit. So this does get quite a bit of use off camera, and it's actually the only shave stick I own, and it lives, well, I lied. I also have Arco, but the LEA lives in my travel kit. So here we're just going to wet the stick and apply it liberally. Now shave sticks, if you haven't used those, you can apply these in any direction in which it is comfortable. With the grain, across the grain, against the grain, whichever way that you prefer. And getting it wet does not hurt. So the city of Philadelphia is the largest city in Pennsylvania. I believe it is the 6th largest city in the country. It was originally founded in 1682 as the capital of the Pennsylvania colony by William Penn. Now, William Penn was a Quaker, and when the King of England gave him the deed to the colony of Pennsylvania, he suggested naming the colony Pennsylvania, to which William Penn said he politely declined, said that naming it after himself would go against his religious beliefs. The king, I can't recall the king's name, it was King William, said, well, don't name it after yourself, name it after your father, which he did, obviously, and now we have Pennsylvania. So the Pennsylvania colony, Pennsylvania itself has a huge, rich history as far as the colonial days and in the fight for the independence for the United States. There's just so much history, I'm not going to be able to get into all of it. It's so much so that when I was growing up here in Pennsylvania itself, I grew up in Chambersburg, which is south central Pennsylvania. I lived there between the, 2nd and 5th grades. We spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania history, and there's just a lot of it. So Philadelphia is the home of Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776. It also has the Liberty Bell, which rang a ton when the U.S. declared independence from England. And that is on display here in Philly as well. It was the largest city in the United States up until 1790, when it was surpassed by New York. Still needs a lot of water. So LEA can take some water here. Let's just get some in here. Now, something that's really, really cool about or about Philadelphia itself, is that it is the birthplace of many institutions. There's a lot of things that we take for granted. So Philadelphia is the birthplace of the Marines. That's right. The Marine Corps was founded in Philadelphia. Also, as far as firsts are concerned, had the first library in 1751. The first hospital, also in, well, let's see here, am I wrong? No, I lied. The library was 1731. The first hospital was in 1751. Also had the very first medical school in 1765. The first stock exchange was in 1790. And the first zoo in let me see if I can get this right here, 1874. So Philadelphia is a beautiful city, very large. The airport, there's actually two airports if you want to go in a little smaller regional plane, but if you're coming in from outside, basically the main airport is going to be Philadelphia International. And that is a large airport where if you are flying in and renting a car, you will need to catch a shuttle to the rental car facility. Now, Philadelphia's rental cars are handled very much like LAX in Los Angeles, or that you get on a rental car or a shuttle specific to your rental car agency. So you hop on the shuttle, you go there and you get your car. And it's just a short little shuttle bus ride from the airport. Airport is relatively downtown. However, because it is one of the country's largest cities, traffic sucks. The hotel in which I'm staying this week is only about 10 or so miles from the airport. I'm getting they're everywhere. And it took me over an hour. That's right, over an hour to go there, to get to my hotel from the airport, roughly 10 miles away. So, if you're coming here, plan on spending a lot of time in traffic, or they also have public transit. There is a train system that you can use. Of course, buses, and Uber and Lyft and all those rideshare services as well. But if you don't want to spend time in traffic, you can catch public transit, which does seem pretty reliable. When I was asked how I was getting around when I was here by the customer, they asked if I was taking public transit or if I had a car, and I said I would be using a rental car. So as you can see, LEA builds lather pretty dang well, and it can take a decent amount of water as well. Now the scent on LEA, I apologize, I'm kind of bouncing around here quite a bit, but the scent on LEA is very pleasant, very mild, just very kind of wonderful soapy scent. And this is kind of why I always build lather off camera, because here we are 8 minutes in, almost 9, and I haven't even started my shave yet. I think that's pretty good there. So also, for you sports fans, Philadelphia is the home of a sports team from all 4 major sports or sports leagues. Now, I'm not sure if they have a soccer team or not, or soccer or football, for those of you who are not in the United States. They do have the Philadelphia Phillies for baseball, the Eagles for the NFL, and the Flyers for hockey. So much like where I was in my last video in Pittsburgh, if you are a sports fan, they got you covered in Pennsylvania. There are a lot of notable figures that are from Philadelphia as well. One of those, if you are familiar with the 7 degrees of separation from Mr. Kevin Bacon. is originally from Philly. As is David Boreanaz of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, Bones, and then whatever he's doing now where he's playing submarine. That show, he's from Philly. Peter Boyle, if you ever watched the show, I believe it was Everybody Loves Raymond. He was the father. Or if you're a little bit more of a geek like myself, you probably know him from Mel Brooks' movie, Young Frankenstein, where he played Frankenstein's monster. Dick Clark is also from this area, from Philly. I think you went the wrong direction on that one. I should have gone that way instead, and I went cross screen. Oops! Oh well. Someone who I'm sure the city would like to forget is from here is Bill Cosby. See, Bradley Cooper is also from here. He's the voice of Rocket Raccoon in the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers movies, and the latest two Avengers movies. Kat Dennings, also from Thor, as well as Two Broke Girls. Tina Fey as well. Yep, there's a little weeper right there. I knew it. That's okay. Seth Green is also from here. As is fellow funny man Kevin Hart. Also Grace Kelly, for those that like the classic movies. For those of you that are into Broadway and musicals, one of the biggest names out there now, Leslie Odom Jr. I believe he was in Hamilton, is kind of where he rose to prominence. For those of you who are children of the 80s, you will know this individual from a sitcom of Full House that took place in San Francisco, but Mr. Funnyman Bob Saget, also a stand-up comedian who surprisingly is, his stand-up routine is not as wholesome as his character was on the TV show. Love him or hate him, director M. Night Shyamalan grew up here as well. Let's see, and of course no list of Philly would be complete without mentioning 80s, I guess you'd call it hip hop? Is that what he did? Turned actor, none other than Will Smith and his partner in crime, DJ Jazzy Jeff. I'm losing track of where I'm going here as far as the grains. Let's see, who else? Teller from Penn and Teller. For those of you who don't follow that act, Teller's the one that does not speak. He's the silent partner of the two. One of my favorite science fiction authors who wrote a lot of the kind of the rules of robotics in his science fiction works would be Isaac Asimov. Fantastic suspense author Edgar Allan Poe is from here as well. Kobe Bryant used to call Philly home, as did baseball player Reggie Jackson. And there are a number of famous musical groups or bands that are from here as well. One of those being probably one of the most monotone groups in the world, Bloodhound Gang. The second one is one of what kind of my introduction to R&B when I was growing up would be Boyz II Men, as well as, let's see, classic rock duo Hall & Oates, Joan Jett, and this one was a surprise when I was doing a little bit of research, but Taylor Swift was born and raised here in Philly. Her family moved to Nashville when she was 14 years old. So that one surprised me quite a bit. And no, I'm not a fan. And something else that kind of surprised me is, for those of you that watched the original Rocky movies from Sylvester Stallone, you notice I did not mention Sylvester Stallone on the list, because he's not from Philadelphia. He grew up in Hell's Kitchen in New York City. But he set Rocky in Philadelphia. And of course I can't think about the movie Rocky without the song Eye of the Tiger in my head, as Stallone is in the character of Balboa running up the I think it's the hall, the foots or the steps to City Hall, or I can't remember exactly what building it is. I haven't seen it until I got here today. But that goes through my mind every time I think of Philly. And also the latest movie from DC, Shazam, was also based in Philadelphia. And I was thinking about this as I was driving around, coming to Philly, or as I was driving to my hotel, sitting in traffic for over an hour to go 10 miles, because again, traffic is horrible. To my knowledge, Philadelphia, at least in the DC universe, is the only city ever explicitly named. That is actually a city in reality. Of course, Batman takes place in Gotham City, and you have Metropolis and all that, but Philadelphia was explicitly mentioned in the movie Shazam. So that was kind of cool. I just watched that this past week, actually, as I got ready to come here. Just happy coincidence. I had no idea it took place in Philadelphia. Oh, another little weeper. That's all right. So if you are a history buff, Philadelphia is a phenomenal place to visit. I can highly recommend it. It is a beautiful city, but do keep in mind that traffic is horrendous. Like I said, I was heading towards Philadelphia, towards downtown from the airport. And because the city is so old, the infrastructure is just not in place to deal with the large quantities of people that are now living in this area. But there's tons of history, tons of awesome stuff to do here as well. Now, unlike my previous lists, I did not go through and get a list of museums and all that to do here, because if I did that, this video would be tremendously long. Philly is a nice place to come and visit. I mean, tons of historical sites to visit here. Because this was so important to the American Revolution, it's just rich in American history, and I can highly recommend coming here. If you are from an area that is more a dry heat, keep in mind that it does get exceptionally humid here as well. Coming off the plane today, I noticed that it was very humid. And it's not even the hottest part of the summer yet. We're just starting. So definitely something to keep in mind. If you're not used to humidity, make sure you dress appropriately, because it is humid as all get out. Make sure you have some kind of liquid refreshment close by, simply because of the amount of humidity here. And the good thing about Philadelphia, because it is so large, there are a number of flights that go in and out of here daily. Now, where I live, the flight time was about just under 4 hours. But from gate to gate, I think the average is at about 4.5. But we arrived about half an hour early. Quite a bit of weepers on this one. So there we go, paid a little bit of a blood oath. Tried to avoid going too much against the grain to avoid some of those weepers there. Wasn't successful. But overall, oh, there we go. LEA performed pretty well. Now, because let's see how that matches up. I'm not used to keeping sideburns and all that stuff. I'm ready to go on vacation here in a couple weeks, where it will be nice and sunny and warm. So I'm trying to actually have a little bit of hair in my head, so I can see what I can do with a hat and all that. We'll see how that works out. But anyway, again, the product I used tonight was the LEA Shave Stick, product of Spain. It is a very neutral, kind of soapy type scent. Performs very well, built to lather, can take a decent amount of water. Cushion on there is really good. The glide is also really good as well. The post-shave feel is not the best, if I'm to be 100% honest here. It works, but definitely you want to be using some kind of balm or some skin food aftershave, just to help with that general post-shave feel. The brush I used was the RazoRock Monster with the Plus Soft style knot. A very little backbone, but it can build a face lather like none other. And there's enough in there that could probably do another pass or two. So LEA can take a little bit of water, and other than the post-shave feel not being phenomenal, it's a very good soap. I believe it can be found at Maggard's, and for those of you in the New York area that have access to past stores, I've seen it there as well, and you can find it online, of course. Highly recommend looking into it if you are a fan of shave sticks. It's just really nice and easy to place in the dop kit when you're traveling. It's one that lives in my dop kit that I have with me every single week. And that is a really annoying sink, I apologize about that. So again, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of The Traveling Shaver. I am not 100% sure where I'm going next week, or my next trip. My trip next week was literally canceled as I was landing this afternoon. So I don't know where I'm going next for work. So until next time, thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in the next shave.